Okay, so this is a follow-up to the monofilament invisible thread video that I did. I made that and went away, and somehow I got 19,000 views, and I was like, okay, wasn't expecting that. You guys have a lot of questions about monofilament thread that I didn't know about, and I work with it almost exclusively because I stitch all my pieces onto sheer fabrics, and I want my stitches to be as invisible as possible. The number one questions so far have been how to knot it and how to anchor it into the fabric, how to secure it at the end, and how to keep it from tangling while you're stitching. That was sort of what I was going for with explaining how to get the curl out, was so that it would tangle less. But since there have been so many requests for a demonstration, I'm working on a project today, and I thought that I might demonstrate, and maybe it will help. So I guess we'll see. I should also add that if you're interested in more comprehensive and properly planned out lessons for advanced embellishment and embroidery, I have all that on my Patreon. It's Brian McCarney, and I have, there's quite a lot of lessons there now for advanced surface embellishment techniques, and they're a lot less haphazard than this one. Thank you. All right, my first tip is maybe not possible for everyone, but it's the way that I work because it speeds things up enormously. I clamp my frame to my desk so that I have both hands free, and this helps. You'll see how, as I go along, how this helps keep my thread from tangling. I am going to do an example of stitching something handheld so you can watch me work that way, but the main way, my biggest thing for saving time and grief and frustration, is clamping your frame to your desk. Okay, as you can see here, I have set up what is no doubt going to be ferociously aggravating because there's pins everywhere, and all of these little leaves can catch your thread and tangle it constantly. So I'm showing you how I work on hard mode. I'd love to think that anything you're doing is going to be easier than this, but I don't know what you guys are up to. So first we'll discuss needles, because that was a specific question. I've used so many beading needles. Yes, so many. These are my favorite. Unique beading needles. I get them at Fabricland in Canada. You can probably buy them online. And specifically this back row. I do use these for other projects. These are really good for working on like anywhere where you don't want to, like, these really hide, they're so narrow gauge, they hide holes better. These make a conspicuous hole in things. And these are good for, I don't know, there's different projects, but specifically for this, I will be using this back row of the HA Kid Unique beading needles. And these are, of all of the beading needles I've ever tried, and I've tried lots, these are my favorite because they're very strong, they're very long, and they're thin, and they have a pretty good sized eye, which I know some of you have asked me about threading them as well. So the monofilament thread that I'm going to be using today, I discussed in the last video. It's this Wonder Invisible thread. I get it from a shop on Queen Street in Toronto, and it's really, really fine. It's also got this curl to it. I put a black background on my on this project so that hopefully the thread shows up better, but I'll zoom in and I'll show you how I thread it. Okay, third time is the charm.
I didn't hit record the last time I made this. And the first time my hands weren't properly in frame. So we're doing it again. So we've smoothed out our thread. And there are more easily threadable beading needles. I'll put one in the comments. But the one that I use, they have a decent size eye. So I just thread it down. And then for knotting, my knots aren't particularly fancy. I just wrap it around 2 fingers and pull it through the loop, and I go through 3 times like that. You can see there. And then for anchoring stitches, the way that I do it, now usually I have my frame clamped so that my hands are free, but I'm going to show you here so that I can flip it up and over to make it easier to see. So for anchoring my stitch into the ground fabric, because obviously this knot's going to do nothing, it's going to pull right through the illusion. So we come up through the bottom and we pull almost all the way out. And you see our knot is here. Okay, so I've come up through the fabric, not all the way, and I'm going down a couple stitch lengths over from where I came up. So I'm not going down in the same place. And then on the bottom, what can I put down so that this is more visible? So you see, I've gone up and gone through, and I've come out there. So this is the part that's hard to show. You want to go, that's where our knot is, below the loop. You want to put, of course this is being a jerk, pull apart. Why are you being like this? It's all twisted. Okay, so we come up through the bottom, go back down through a stitch length over, and then you want to, this is our looped thread, you want to go through this loop here, like that, so that it's basically a slip knot underneath, and you can see it's very strong and it's not going to pull out with any kind of pressure. So that's how I do that. And then, okay, say I've stitched a whole bunch of things onto here. What can I stitch on? Let's stitch this on. Okay, so we stitch this on, which again, far easier when I have things clamped and I don't have to hold the frame. Okay, now say I want to make my knot there. What I will do is I will go through and just catch 1 or 2 threads like that and go through the loop and pull it. And then I'll do that again. Just catch a couple threads and go through the loop with the needle and pull it tight. And then you can do your regular knot. And pull it flush to the fabric like that. And then for extra security, because I was a bridal gown designer for years and years, and it would be a nightmare if any of the beading fell off the gown while you were wearing it. So typically what I would do is I would end my knots near each other. I try to always do that. So in this case, if I were going to pick up more stitching, I would try to stitch my way back over to this guy so that I could take both tails and tie them together. But in a situation where you're just off in the middle of nowhere and you don't have another knot, so cut that so that it's long. And then I use a tambour hook. If you don't have a tambour hook, you can figure out some other way, I suppose. This makes it way easier because I just used the tambour hook. Again, this is easier when you have your hands free. To pull one strand tail through the other side. Okay, so we have one side coming up in the front, and then we bring it back again over here, like that. And then we can tie these two together. Like that. Now, if you're doing embroidery for a frame, the truth is there's just not going to be that much strain on your stitches. So this is entirely unnecessary. If you're stitching on clothes that are going to be washed and worn and have a lot of friction against them, then this is how I stitch things, not with invisible thread, with normal thread, because this will be insane on skin. You wouldn't want to use this against, where anywhere it was going to rub on skin because it would be so picky. So with regular thread, but that I would extra knot these before I trimmed them close, so that there's no way this is coming off now. And I've put things through the wash before that shouldn't go in the wash, and they're very secure. So, because if someone's paying you a lot of money for beading, you want to make sure it stays where you put it. Anyway, so those are my knots with invisible thread. Boop. Now, the second part. We start from the underside. I already have a needle in there, but I'm going to start over with this bit. So I'm going to start down, I'll start here. You can see there? Okay, so first thing we do, actually I want to hide this tail. I'm going to start over here so I can hide it. So we're going to come up from the bottom and pull the thread most of the way, but not all the way through. And then go back down through like that. And I'm using my fingers this whole time to keep it from catching on the pointy leaves. Now, the underside, we have our knot and this. I'm gonna put, I hope this is obvious. You do this underneath, but I'm gonna put this through the loop of my knot, like that, and pull it so that it's secured underneath. So it's not gonna come through my sheer fabric. So basically, yeah, you come up from underneath and then you loop it through its own tail, and then you can't pull it out. And then, again, see, you're gonna catch on this other thread, aren't you? Another thing I do to make things easier on myself, so underneath right now, this is the long part of after our knot, which I call the tail. I'm going to pin the tail out of the way of my hands so that it doesn't catch. And then see, this is the joy of clamping, because I've got both hands to get me through. As I move through the piece, I can use whichever hand is not holding the needle to control the thread and prevent it from getting caught. Now again, I'm going to show you an example of me working on something that isn't clamped, that I'm actually holding in one hand. And there's a little bit more tangling, it still happens, but I'll let you see how I do it, in case that helps you. Hopefully I'm still in frame here. But yeah, that gives you an idea. Another thing I'd recommend is adequate light. Not having enough light can make all of this a lot harder. And I try to follow my leaf shape so that you don't see the shine of the monofilament behind. I mean, it's still, I'm still sewing. People understand that it's stitched. Like, I'm minimizing the look of my stitches, but at the end of the day, it's still something that's stitched. So there will be stitches that are visible. I just kind of try to minimize it as much as possible for the magic of it. Here we go. That's pretty much it. Okay, so I still have quite a bit of room on this thread, but I'm gonna tie it off so that you can see. Let's see, I put a flower there. I might put a flower there. Let's go slightly over here. I'll just put it, I have to remember how I want the piece to be, not just demonstrating. Yeah, I think a flower can go here. Okay, so we'll go like right in the middle of this gap here. So I'm gonna bring my thread up through like that. And then this will be annoying for you trying to keep it from tangling. This is definitely a part where it will tangle. I've come up right there, but I'm just gonna come back a little bit and gather a couple threads and pull it through so that there's a loop here, and then put my needle back through the loop like that and pull it taut. And then I do 2 knots like that. And then make it flush with the top of my fabric like that. You can see there's a little knot there, and then go back down through. See, told you it would tangle. Come on, man. There we go. So there, that's how you tie off so that it's nice and secure. And then another thing that I could do to make it even stronger, if this was going to go on a garment or something and you needed to make sure that it was going to stand up to a lot of strain, is you could bring one loop through. It would be turned over. You could bring one loop through with a tambour hook and then back down and then tie it again on the back. That's what I would do if I were beading a wedding gown. But this isn't going to have a lot of strain on it, so I'm just going to snip it like that. And then I'm going to put a flower there, and then I can tie the knots for that together. But for now, there we go. That's how I would do this. And so I'm going to continue stitching these leaves on, but hopefully that was instructional. And if I missed anything crucial, I think I answered most of the questions that you had. But if there's extra stuff, leave it in the comments and maybe I'll do another follow-up. Thank you.